Oh no, hellos and welcome back to another videos, and today we'll be going back to the series that I haven't been through a while. I think it's been 3 months since I haven't done this series, but it's gonna be questions you do not ask Vinyl. I don't know what the series is called. Okay, I just made it up, bro. No, it's actually a series. The first episodes is right there. Go check it out if you want to. So yeah, so I don't know why people don't ask me this, but how do I actually make my decks, and what is my thought process going on when I build any deck in Magic the Gathering? Well, it's kind of a simple terms using basically you're asking questions to the deck, and I believe people don't really do this to decks a lot of the time. We'll give you examples. So for example, when I was building my Coma deck, I was asking like a lot of questions of like, okay, so you look at the card, like you're gonna look at a lot of cards and you're gonna look at the text of the cards and what it does and what your deck wants to do with that sort of thing. And what you kind of compile is how to break the bounds outside of the card. So I was reading Coma and I was like, it just makes Coma coils and it taps target permanents down. It's just an engine in itself, and it could give itself indestructible. Now that's just crazy. But you gotta think of the plan ahead, you know? So, for example, you're gonna need, so his first ability is tap target permanent. Now you're not gonna always have that because they're gonna have more creatures than you. So what's a way to combat that? Well, you can add ways of tapping down creatures like Bind the Monsters, Bubble Snare, not Miscast. Stinging Lionfish, you get the idea, you know. You ask questions, okay, what's a better way to tap down people's stuff early game? That's the first question I ask the deck when I build it. Now the second question I was using with Coma is like, how am I going to ramp in the Coma? Well, that's easy. You just put in some ramp spells, you know, like Cultivate, Dryad, Omen, you know, Uro, why not? Uro's in every deck, though, to be fair. Heroic Banner, basically your typical type of stuff. Okay, and then you ask more questions and more questions and more questions and more questions, like that. So that's basically how you make a deck. Now, there's a lot of different formats, so I make different decks based on the different formats, and it really depends on the meta too. I always ask the question of, okay, well, what is this card going to be affected by, and I actually try to put in appropriate cards to, fix the brokenness of the cards. Oh, and also the other question I asked Coma is like, what if you need more serpents? Easy. You put in changelings. Duh. Because they're every creature type, so they could be a serpent. And if you have Coma on the battlefield, you can instantly protect them. Because if you cast them, yeah, it can't be countered, but you don't have a serpent to protect them. So the only way you can protect them is if you have a serpent. 1000 IQ, if you have a changeling and the person's about to kill it, when you just cast it, you could just sack the changeling. Boom. That's how you roll. So yeah, a lot of people think I make good decks. I just think outside of the box. Like I try to think of everything. Now, granted, I can't think of everything. Like I can't think what does the opponent have in his hand that I don't. I won't know that information unless I thought sees them. Ew. But yeah, let's give a better example of like like make some like janky decks. Like people like my janky decks. For example, Quake Bro. I'm kind of like a lot of YouTubers actually. People think I'm like really creative, but honestly, I inspire off of other content creators out there. There's Mono Black Magic, there's Magic Aids. They do a really good job at making decks. I just inspired to them. And I think, what are the interactions of what these cards can do? And I also still ask the questions, like how am I going to get Quake Bro in the graveyard? Well, that's easy. You use Thrill of Possibility, because you can do it at instant speed too, and you can just discard the Quakebringer. And also, what people don't actually figure out sometimes is you got to read outside the card. So people don't get like the downsides and the upsides of cards. So when you read this card, people don't understand what an upside and a downside is when it comes to reading magic cards, because they always think of the downside, but you always got to see an upside to the card. Look at the glass half full. So this says your opponents can't gain life. At the beginning of your upkeep, Quakebringer deals 2 damage to his opponent. This ability only triggers if Quakebringer is on the battlefield, or if Quakebringer is in your graveyard and a controlled giant. Now that's a downside, because the downside is you have to play it in a giant deck, but that's not necessarily true. What you could do to get around this is if you play changelings. Duh. Again, and I base this whole thing off changelings because I think changelings is the mechanic I like to make. So, yeah. Alright, so we're going to see what I do in action. let's just create a new deck. Let's make it more challenging. I'm going to do standard, and I'm going to ask questions when I build the deck. And yeah, I guess we can do this. And then we can probably lay down only one. I think that's better. The lands, whatever. And anyways, you get the idea. This is what you can do with the deck. I'm not going to play it, of course. But it gives you a good idea of how one might build a deck. Now for lands, honestly, I don't tend to care. Fabled Passage, though, seems to be my standard when it comes to any deck I make now. But that's just me. It's only for 2 or 3 colors, though. That's pretty much it. I mean, and yeah, this can be a solid deck. Some people might think not, but I mean, I threw this together, and it only took like maybe 10 minutes to build. Granted, it's not solid deck. Yeah, I don't care. I'm just using it for the flyers, bro. And I mean, that's not a bad deck actually, because you got this. I mean, you got like 8 1-drops, so you most likely. Now you also have to base it on the curve. I like to use the curve as well. I'll base it on the curve. So like when I put in like other stuff like that, I mean, I don't care too much about it as long as 2.4, I'll say 24. When it gets 2. Or maybe 2.5 land was 24. So if it gets lower than 2.4, then I'll put in like 23 lands. Gets lower than that, just put 22. Because I don't know. It also depends on card draw too, and I think I have a lot of card draw. And I think 24 is all right. So, and I mean, this could be a solid deck. And it's just whatever. I'll just call it a test video deck, whatever. Okay. Yeah, there you go. No, I don't care. Yay! It's built. And yeah, that's how I make all my decks. Now, granted, not all of this is going to work for everyone. It really depends on what you like to include in your decks. For me, for example, I actually like a lot of tempo. I like to always be on top of everything. I don't want everything to go to, I always want to play everything I want to in that turn. And I always want to basically have everything organized and everything fits in the right place. Some people are about control. Some people like removal a lot. Some people like to mess with other people's creatures, buy in their hand. It really depends. Now, some people like fast and aggro. They like to go in. They don't care what card they have in the deck, as long as it's fast and as long as it can beat on the opponent. So, I don't build like that. The way I build is with tempo. So, and that's actually how I build my decks. Granted, Brawl is a little bit different. I put personality into it. But sometimes, I like to try something new. Like with this deck, I wanted to try something new. It didn't really work out that well, but it's alright. It was alright deck. And I actually kind of liked it. It wasn't that bad. So I didn't actually have a complaint for that. But anyways, that's how I make my deck, and there's your answer to that question. How does DJ Vinyl build those decks? And honestly, when I do it on stream, it's not the way I would typically build decks, but it's close. Even for this video, I kind of rushed because I wanted to shorten time. But um, I mean, don't leave it up to me to decide how you build your decks. You can build your decks however you want, how janky you want. It doesn't matter as long as you're having fun building the deck. And that's the most important thing when it comes to my decks. I always want to have fun when I build my decks. I never want to make it like complicated. I never want to make it the most competitive. I want to see some cool, fun interactions, you know, like those content creators. I love when I see something new and something that's cool. That is what Magic is really like for me. I really like that type of style. Um, I like the flair of it all. You know, you gotta look cool while doing it. It's just that's kind of how I am. You know, like I'll build a janky deck and I love it. Even if I lose, I love it. You know, as long as I know if it's doing the correct thing, then I'm happy with the decks I build. Um, Now most people, you know, I say like I delete my decks that are not good. Like for example, Pestilence combo. It was good for a while, but then there was more removal. So I mean, it's not that good anymore. Then there was Winota Warriors I built. Like I was thinking, I mean, Winota's a warrior. Just make warriors with the Winota. Then it ended up being that you just killed Winota on the spot, and it's not that good, you know. I think my best overall was probably my 5-color humans deck. I actually did expire it historic for a while, and then it fell out of favor, and then I made spirits, you know, because I can. And to be fair, there's a lot of spirit tribal, so I mean, no one came up with this deck but me, so I was all like, I think it's time for me to build a spirits deck in historic, and I did it. So I'm happy with that. But anyways, that's how I build all the decks in all the formats, and you know everything about me in building decks. Okay, this whole video, even though it was long, you know everything about me building decks. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day or night, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Bye and peace.